In recent times, the Upper East region has witnessed a troubling surge in students rioting, many of which have escalated into the destruction of school properties. What was once a rare occurrence has become a growing concern for educators, parents, and the community at large. The region is home to 49 senior high schools and as well as institutions dedicated to technical and vocational education and training (TVET). These schools are meant to be sanctuaries of learning, nurturing students to become responsible citizens and further ambassadors of progress. Yet, a worrying trend has emerged. Students once seen as torchbearers of hope are now, in some cases, becoming liabilities, engaging in acts that undermines the very essence of education, according to investigation by Apex News GH. Every administration since the Fourth Republic has experienced at least one or two incidents of school rioting as second cycle institutions within the Upper East region. These administrations have not only disrupted academic activities but have also left a lasting impact on the educational landscape. As the region struggles with the pressing issue, the question remains: what can be done to restore the sanctity of schools and guide students back to the path of learning and leadership? I started by visiting the Regional Office of Technical and Vocational Education and Training (TVET), where I met with the Upper East Regional Director, William Adom, to hear his thoughts on this concerning situation.
For me, as a Regional Director for Ghana TVSL, if you ask me what is the remote cause for this rioting, I will tell you the use of the mobile phone. We know that for Ministry of Education, we are not allowed to bring phones to school, or parents are not allowed to give phones to their wards to bring to school. But unfortunately, these days the students sneak phones into their schools. And you know, when you bring a phone to the school, definitely you cannot be sending it to the classroom or to the preps. So sometimes they go and hide them, and then their friends will go back and steal them. And once they steal your phone, then you come back. Within themselves, they do some investigations within their dormitories or whatever, wherever they find themselves. And then when a student is caught, then they begin to bully the student. So when you bully the student and then it gets off hand, sometimes it turns into travel problems again.
According to Professor David Miller, President of the Miller Institute for Transdisciplinary and Development Studies, 7 factors are the main causes of the increasing riots in second cycle institutions. He further called on authorities to take actions to control the situation.
Something is becoming very common and noticeable that rioting in schools, especially second cycle institutions, is on the ascendancy. It's beginning to increase nationwide, and I think that something has to be done to contain it, otherwise it's going to blow up on our faces. From where I sit, I can see 7 factors. 4 of them are major and cross-cutting, and 3 of them are a bit specific and might differ from institution to institution. The first one of the 4 for me is the abuse and misuse of drugs. And it's not only within the school system, even when they go home, some students still continue in the use of those drugs. So the usage of drugs now becomes a habit, and this is taken from the home back to the school system, and it tends to influence that school environment.
Among those raising their voices for change is Reverend Abukari Thomas, chairman of the Upper East Regional Christian Council in Bolgatanga, who also serves as the head pastor of the Baptist Church. He expressed concern over the rising incidents of students targeting school infrastructure for distraction.
But if we see them going all around destroying school properties, and when you ask to find out what is the case, it might be a simple misunderstanding, misinformation, or miscommunication. Can we as leaders sit back? The generation we have today is not the generation that we were born in. This is a complex generation, but sensitive and active. We should reform the way we communicate with them. There are things that they need to know which they are not aware of. Most of them are not even aware of the effects of the acts that they are going through. Government has spent huge sums of amounts of money to put up infrastructure, which our region is lacking. There is no institution in our region we can boast and say that they have enough infrastructure, they have enough equipment. No.
Meanwhile, Honorable Vomen David Nansong, Regional Secretary for the Parent Teachers Association, attributed the alarming rise in school riots to the government abolition of corporal punishment. He explained that due to fear of repercussions, teachers are now hesitant to enforce discipline.
And we think that at least Ghanaians should rather let us go back to the old system of disciplining our students so that things will work for us. Okay. Those days, hardly will you hear that a school goes on demonstration. It was difficult. It was very, very difficult.
Those days, eh?
Those days. Look at just last year and this year, the number of schools in the region that went on strike. And the others, they just sent security there and they were sleeping in the campuses in order to prevent the strike from spilling over those schools.
Wow.
Because I'm aware of Big Boss, I'm aware of Zamsi Senior High Technical here, and others.
Wow.
Because of that, they have to put security there, the BNI, and others to be able to investigate those diseases in order to stop it from occurring in those schools. Ghana Education Service to reintroduce the motion back to the secondary schools. They should do it. So when the student is in the school, he or she will know that though it is free secondary school, you have the chance to come to the school. But if there is demotion and promotion there, the child will know that if I don't sit down to learn, they will demote me.
Okay. Alhaji Sumaila Isaka, chairman of the Upper East Regional Peace Council, has voiced grave concern over the growing trend of students rioting in the region. A worrying development, he believes, is fast becoming a destructive norm among second cycle schools. He, however, made a startling revelation on happenings going on in the education sector, especially in the region.
Tribal fighting is in the schools.
Which wasn't the case.
It wasn't the case before. To the extent that if you are not a Katsina speaking boy, you cannot be senior prefect in Navungu Secondary School. If you are not a Guruni speaking boy, you can be the senior prefect of Big Boss, Tanga Secondary School. If you are not a Kusati speaking boy, you cannot be a senior prefect of Box Secondary School. Why? Why?
So this is what is happening.
This is what is happening. Even they are extending it to the heads, insisting that if you are not from that area, you shouldn't be head.
Really?
I'm telling you. But we had headmasters from different tribes in different locations.
Students who have the best interest of their institution at heart serve as exemplary role models for others. I encountered a young eloquent Zamsi student to hear his perspective on the troubling situation, and he proved himself to be a worthy ambassador.
It's always making things unbearable for parents, especially those who know that their wards are very good and wouldn't involve in such a thing. But they are always influenced by colleagues and other friends who end up by influencing them to go into such acts. So when it always happens, it's always in two perspectives. Those who involve in it are impressing themselves, while those who are not in support of it are always weeping within them. But you cannot just come out to say that they should stop, because if you do so, you may also be hurt. So you just have no option than to also pay a fine of which you are not ready to pay such a thing. So to me, I think we should do something about it, like educating them on the dangers concerning those things.
Based on the evidence gathered, the increasing riot in our second cycle institutions are largely triggered and caused by the youth. To gain further insight, I saw the perspective of Francis Adingo, president of the Upper East Youth Association.
It has cut across almost all the second cycle institutions in the Upper East region. You can talk about Bokutek, Bokusek, you can talk about Zuarulu Secondary, you can talk about Botek, Awe Senior High, Kori Senior High. Yes, some of their concerns may be genuine, but just as genuine as they are, they should also follow a genuine process. There are laid down rules and regulations in our schools. There are things that as student leaders must encourage their colleagues to follow due process to address their grievances. To the extent that you do demonstration, you can hold a demonstration, it is even in our constitution, but it must be peaceful as it is. You can even go and seek permission from the police that this thing is going on from your school and you want to demonstrate peacefully. They should come for protection. They will protect you. But at the end of the day, you will see everybody vandalism, and all boils down to substance abuse. And parents look unconcerned. Children are going to school, you don't even search their bags to see what they are carrying to school. There are students in various second cycle institutions who have weapons in their dormitories.
Really?
It's a fact. Who have weapons, have the courage to stand with the police to fight in demonstration.
Wow.
Burn down dormitories, burn down school administration block, burn down even the library they go to sit and learn.
Given the disturbing challenges facing educational institutions in the region, there is a pressing need for effective solutions and innovative ideas to address the situation for the betterment of the region. To this end, I also sought the perspective of the regional TVET director.
Director, what would you suggest? For me, what as a regional director TVET, I've mandated all the schools to strengthen our guidance and counseling units so that we can continue to guide the students. Occasionally organize talks for them as to why they are in the school. They need to be guided. If you go to some of the schools, you have one counselor taking care of maybe a student population of about 2,000, 3,000. That is not enough. So what I've done as a regional director is to visit all the schools to look at how best we can strengthen our counseling units.
Mr. Razak Abdul Kora, the Upper East Regional Director of Education, has described the escalating school riots in the region as a major concern for all stakeholders in the education sector. He emphasized the need to create an enabling environment for teaching and learning. The regional director also revealed that investigation reports for some of the schools affected by riots are now ready.
A peaceful environment should be a creation of almost all stakeholders. So if one stakeholder happens not to be in line, it affects all. And in creating that peaceful environment, we need to bring everybody on board. Hence, in discipline, let me even put it, not necessarily only student in discipline, but in discipline among staff, in discipline among students, every level of indiscipline affects the management of the school. But as indicated of late, we are seeing quite a number that are springing up across almost all institutions. And in some cases, the offices, at the office level, it may be on a very low, but the majority of the actors in the school space, they are more. So one trigger leads to another, and it is not the best, especially when it goes out into demonstrations. Somewhere, I think it was in July thereof, the incident that occurred at Zuarungu. Already the outcome is not so clear. We are working at it. As I came, as you reported, the issue of Guri, some report has come. Zuarengo, a report has come. But as I sit, I might not even be able to speak to what is contained in the report because my briefing was that, yes, the reports have come. It has been forwarded to the Director General for study and advice.
Prof, it's good you have actually outlined all these things. And clearly you could see that this is actually the cause of some of this rioting we are witnessing in our schools. Now, we are looking for solution to cure all these, experiences. What would be your suggestion to solution, in this?
I will start with another general one, which is what we call it. Conscientization. Some of them have fallen foul because they are not aware of the implications, especially the long-term implications. So there should be a lot more civic education in the school system. Educate, re-educate. Get career people to talk with them. Get people who are in the drug system to speak, because these days some of them are willing to be ambassadors to share their experiences. Get that education intensified in the school system. For me, that should be a beginning even for youth in general. But since we are talking about school systems here, I will limit it there. You don't have that happen. What we call, we used to have civic education in schools. All those things are gone. But to have resource persons speak to them, share their experiences, motivate them, it will, first of all, not everybody has fallen victim. Those on the borderline or those who are looking forward to crossing the carpet and joining might hesitate, especially if they know the consequences and the long-term effect. So for me, that is the one that should be introduced into the school system.
Mr. Yin Yayen, a social justice advocate, contends that the root causes of school riots are often practical issues, with poor food quality being a primary factor. He emphasizes that, as the saying goes, a hungry man is an angry man.
It's extremely important for us to know what are the major factors that lead to problems in some of our schools. We know that one of the major reasons, major problems is poor food, extremely poor food.
Okay.
When children are given food that is not sufficient, they get organized, and there have been a lot of these routes that have occurred because of poor schools, poor food. So then whom do you blame? You either have to blame the government for not providing enough food, and if the government has provided enough food, then you have to blame the region, the distributors, for not distributing enough food to the schools. And if they are distributing enough food to the schools, whom do you have to blame? You have to blame those who collect the food, the headmasters, the accountants and others. We know that Ghana, the corruption has steeped so high, and there's corruption within these boundaries. And we know very well that sometimes the school may be given 100 bucks, and the authorities at the schools may decide that we need 28 bucks to make up. Again, is the poor salaries that people pay. We know in the kitchen, some of the kitchen staff are poorly paid. They're about 600 cedis, 1,000 cedis, the cooks and others. So by the time the food enters into the kitchen, the cooks also take some for home. So the children end up with what? Less food. And this can lead to riots.
However, the Upper East Regional Minister, Honorable Donatus Atanga Akamukri, expressed deep concern over the serious indiscipline in the region's second cycle institutions, citing a number of student riots that have occurred during his tenure as minister. He shared his first-hand experience addressing the problem.
Well, it has also come to my notice, and in fact I have experienced it
since I took over as a regional minister for about 5 months now. It all started under my regime in the St. Benedict Secondary School in the Navrungo, and the cause of it is about the fact that some phone was stolen, and it nearly brought about a case where students were now fighting on tribal lines. How can they steal a phone and you are fighting? Did they steal a tribe? Can you understand that? That's the problem. So, and it was followed by the Zorungu Sec, where you equally have a phone case where a phone was stolen, and then the students, in an attempt to retrieve their phone, because normally the schools directed that they are not supposed to bring phones to school, and if anybody carries a phone to the school and is stolen, they cannot report to the authorities, because what they have done, they know that they is in breach of the regulations. So therefore, they take the laws into their own hands and hunt for the thieves, and then try to use their own might to overpower them and retrieve their phone. So in the process of doing that, then always they will get a reaction, because after all, those who stole also know that you are also a criminal, and so that is how that one also came up. Then apart from that, in the Sirigu and the Chanapara, Kasana and Kana West District, their matter was about welfare, where the students were complaining about the fact that water, the only borehole that provides them water broke down, and then the school authorities failed to repair it. And so for 2-3 days, the students were going without water, and they were going into the communities to fetch water, where they were competing with the communities, and they had a difficulty. And that's why they vented their anger on the authorities. That is not the only case. It is so about infrastructural deficit. They have particularly mentioned the lack of toilet facilities, and because of that, they had to be doing open range within the community, which the ladies or the girl students are at risk of being raped. And because these are some of the things that immediate causes of that particular exercise.
Mr. Richard Akumbas Ayimbila, Upper East Regional Chairman of the Conference of Heads Assisted Secondary School, CHAS, highlighted the involving causes of school riots. He emphasized the shared responsibility of teachers, parents, policymakers, and communities in restoring order and nurturing responsible future citizens.
Students were going on strike because teachers were not teaching. We will understand, because they are in the school because of teaching and learning. But to go on strike because a phone, look, if you look at the Zuarungo case, if you trace it about a phone, St. Benedict phone, Bolga Tech phone, Awe some time ago phone, Sandema area, Azantilo, that one, I think that's just the latest, Azantilo Sinai, it was a phone. So all is about phones. And these are children, instead of concentrating on learning, they are looking at things that actually do not matter. In fact, the phone can be a very good tool for learning. If they were using the phones to Google, to use AI, to use chat GPT, I mean, they will get a lot of information that could even help them in their learning. But they are not using the phones for that purpose. Only God knows why they are using those phones. For some of them, I'm sure it's just to go into TikTok, sometimes create a content, give it out.
A significant riot occurred at Bogatanga Technical Institute on August 14, 2025. The riot began following the suspension of several students for repeated acts of misconduct, which led to widespread disruption on campus. Prior to misconduct and suspensions, the suspended students were involved in a pattern of unacceptable behavior, including wearing improper attire, inciting other students to riot, defiling school authority, summoning prefect late at night, and threatening them with harm for assisting school authorities in enforcing rules. The initial indiscipline escalated into severe violence and vandalism, damaged multiple vehicles, including the school bus, privately owned cars, and a Ford Ranger pickup truck, destroying the ceiling of the staff common room, damaged a veranda and a section of Vice Principal's Academic and Administration Office, vandalized the school office of the senior housemaster. During a recent visit to the Upper East region, the Minister of Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, expressed profound displeasure at the destruction and damage caused by students of Botek and other institutions within the region. He further directed that strict disciplinary action be taken to bring perpetrators to justice.
You go and fight and burn a library, and then you go and fight and cut water, then you turn around and say government should come and help you. I have asked that disciplinary actions be strictly enforced without fear or favor. We want those culpable to be punished and punished in accordance with the code of conduct of the GS. So I've given the heads of institutions some 7 days to finalize the report of the investigation, and then we can exercise consequential action that should follow it.
The Broken Chalkboards is a documentary produced by Apex News GH, focusing on the rise in students' riots in the Upper East region.